Murakaza Neza viewers to this week's episode of Load Shedding, a show where we discuss African current affairs.
As usual, we're going to be looking at something positive, something controversial, and something confusing in our head-scratching topic.
Finally, in our Load Shedding favorite, we will share something with you you just have to watch. My name is Kees and Ivory.
And I'm Ivory from the Bong.
Bita Sesha?
Sorry? What language is that?
That was in Kinyarwanda of Rwanda. Do you know why I greeted you in that language?
Enlighten me. I'm sure the viewers are curious as well.
Well, during the International Mother Language Day celebration on the 21st of February, Cypriania Mugabo, the chairperson of the Rwanda Academy of Language and Culture, emphasized the need to ensure proper usage of Kinyarwanda in daily activities. He further called for the protection of Kinyarwanda and its dialects, emphasizing on the link between mother language, identity, and culture. He further encouraged parents to talk to their children in their native tongue whilst they're still young, and for the wider community to use that language on TV, in newspapers, at church, in music, and so on. Together with the University of Rwanda's College of Education, plans are even being developed to write their own Rwandan dictionary.
That's a terrific goal. You know, there are very few African countries that use one of their native languages as the main language of communication. Okay, Ethiopia uses Amharic, but that country was never colonized. Tanzania has Swahili, and also South Africa has 11 official languages. If you, the viewers, know of any other country that uses one of its native languages as an official language, please let us know.
Please do. You mentioned South Africa has 11 official languages, but some South Africans have expressed their disappointment with the fact that Afrikaans is still used in universities to teach, as they identify that language with apartheid. There were protests at the University of Pretoria, which saw clashes between black and Afrikaner students, with the black students demanding that Afrikaans be removed as an official language, and Afrikaners suggesting that another language, another South African language, is used to teach instead of Afrikaans being removed. Many people have expressed opinion that being taught in a language you don't understand will not enable you to learn.
On the one hand, that is a valid point. I do understand people wanting to be taught in their own language. On the other hand, Africa has so many languages. Nigeria, for example, has over 500. If everyone was taught in their native tongue, how would the country operate? What would official paperwork look like? It just doesn't seem feasible to me, and perhaps it could encourage tribalism and splits within countries. That's me thinking practically. But having said that, I cannot stress enough the importance of learning your own language for your individual sense of identity.
Yes, I agree with you there. Africa's history has seen Western languages being introduced to the continent to a point of domination. I'm speaking, of course, of English, Portuguese, French, and Dutch. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing, as people from within and from other countries can communicate with each other, as you said, but that does not mean that we should abandon our own languages. English, French, Dutch, Arabic, and Portuguese cannot be translated fully into a native language, and vice versa. There are so many expressions that don't exist or cannot be translated well. Using Google or Google Translate is great, but they do not contain the same knowledge as my grandmother and grandfather have about my culture. And it would be such a shame that I cannot or I will not learn that because I don't speak with them or communicate with them in my own mother language. There are so many traditional values and cultures that are lost when people stop using their own language.
That's a shame. Most of us young people mix our native languages with European ones when we're talking, not because we think it's cool necessarily, but because we just don't know how to speak our own languages very well. In fact, linguists think that in the next century, more than half the world's current stock of languages may disappear. Currently, 1,000 are listed as severely or critically endangered, teetering on the edge of oblivion.
That's scary. I don't want my language to die. You know, African literature in native languages has been on the rise recently, but people are still not reading in their native vernacular. And viewers, give us your opinion. Tell us why you think that is. Is it because it is a waste of time? Is it not cool enough? Or is it maybe because people can speak the language but cannot read it? Please give us your opinion.
They say the first words people tend to learn are swear words. South African Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Mduduzi Manana, had to apologize for saying Futsek in National Assembly just a few days ago.
For those of you that don't know, Futsek is a way of telling someone to go away. Uh, Most Southern African countries use that phrase, so be careful who you use it with.
Or just don't say it at all. In a show of support for the speech given by Cyprian Neomugabo about using Kinyarwanda, we're encouraging you viewers to translate the following words. I love my language. Translate that into your language and post it in the comment box below. I'll start us off. Naitemwe Chitundu Chandi. That's Bemba from Zambia. If you don't know how to say it in your language, find your nearest elder and get to know.
Yes, let's all make an effort to learn more about our language and our roots. Natemba Muraka wa mi. Let's move on to the controversial topic.
In this week's controversial topic, we look at South Africa's Land Expropriation Bill. In this bill, states can make compulsory purchases of land with the aim of redressing the racial disparities in land ownership, as most of South Africa's land remains in white hands. Essentially, what this means is that states can acquire land without the consent of the owners by paying an amount determined by the Office of the Valuer General. Landowners can challenge the amount of compensation in court. It has been said that this bill does not equal the violent land grabs that took place in Zimbabwe that saw white-owned farms seized for redistribution to blacks. In light of the drought El Nino that has plagued southern Africa, the ruling African National Congress has said that this bill will intensify the land reform program and bring about equitable access to South Africa's land, natural resources, and food security. This bill marks a shift from the willing buyer, willing seller approach, which allowed landowners to choose whether or not to sell their land. The willing buyer, willing seller approach was implemented in Kenya by Jomo Kenyatta in the 1960s and was also implemented in Namibia in the 1990s. Now, this approach has been criticized because in Namibia, for example, it was too slow, as landowners could choose whether or not to sell their land. The other criticism of it has been that landowners can choose to sell land that is not commercial, which doesn't really help the problem of redistribution of wealth. The question for you viewers is, do you think that this land expropriation bill, which will compel white farmers to sell their land but compensate them, is right? Do you view it as being positive discrimination, or is it just plain racist?
I think it's a difficult question to answer, really. You have to look at it from South Africa's history. South Africans were taken from their land and now they're suffering because of it. If you look at it in that sense, then the bill is justified. Plus, on top of that, these white owners are being compensated for their land, so it's not all bad.
Yes, they will be. That reminds me of a Zimbabwean case, Campbell Private Limited and others versus Zimbabwe, in which the acquisition of agricultural lands by the Zimbabwean government was challenged for its legality. In 2008, the tribunal found that the acquisition of lands was illegal because it was based on racial discrimination and the applicants were not compensated. If you apply that case to the South African bill, it seems that the bill is legal because the landowners will be compensated and the bill is actually trying to fix racial disparities.
And if you read International Law on Foreign Investment by Muthukumaraswamy Sonaraja, you will see that discriminatory expropriation carries an exception of post-colonial expropriations that aim to end the domination of nationals of the former colonial power. In simpler terms, it is justified to make sure that nationals are not disadvantaged.
That is understandable, but at the same time, it's kind of worrying. I know that black South Africans are South African, but a bill like this suggests that white South Africans are somehow less South African. I know many people are going to jump up and recall the history of how the white people came in and took the land and everything, but I can't help but think about the white South Africans who were born in South Africa and whose parents were born in South Africa and their grandparents were born in South Africa. Can you really, after all this time, tell them that they're somehow still not quite so South African? Do they really deserve the land any less? I mean, they don't know any other country.
Also, what if the land is not redistributed? What is the alternative? How can economic equality be achieved without some form of discrimination? Is there any other way?
Well, it's definitely a contentious topic, and I'm sure you're just bursting to give your opinions. The comment box is waiting for you just below. And now let's move on to this week's head-scratching topic.
You may not believe me, but what I'm about to tell you is real. An Egyptian toddler has been sentenced to life in prison by the military court, even though the actual suspect is a 16-year-old with the same name. The little boy named Ahmed Mansour Qurani Ali was convicted along with 107 others for killing 3 people and sabotaging public and private property. These incidents took place in 2013 when Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi was being overthrown. In 2013 he was just a year old. It's either that Egypt has a villainous toddler on its hands or the justice system has gone belly up. There have also been reports that Ahmed's 51-year-old uncle was to be arrested by the military, and he has a similar name to Ahmed. According to News 24, many observers and criminal justice experts question the state of the country's criminal justice system.
Well, that's definitely the broader question, but what about the simpler question? What about common sense?
Well, you know what they say, common sense is not always common.
Apparently not. That must mean that little Ahmed was not brought before the judge, which makes you wonder if he was able to defend himself and, of course, all the other people who were convicted as well. But if he was brought before the judge and was still convicted and sentenced, then really the bailiffs, the arresting officers, and the judges should just resign.
According to his lawyer, his name was added to the list of suspects without his birth certificate being presented to the judge. This, however, does nothing more than show that there are holes in the procedural system. Since President Morsi has been overthrown, approximately 40,000 people have been jailed and about 1,000 have been killed for opposing the military.
Hopefully this conviction will force the military to rethink their regime or at least tighten up their justice system.
That is the hope. The eyes of the world are on them to do just that. This particular miscarriage of justice will not be forgotten anytime soon. Now moving on to this week's load-shedding favorite.
Music is the food for the soul, with many of us turning to music to express all the emotions we go through. Sad music when we're going through a breakup, upbeat music when we're going out to party, romantic music at our weddings. But for the musicians who make the music that we love so much, the experience is not always rewarding, financially that is. While everyone listens to music, not everyone pays for it, and in the end, the artist suffers. To remedy this problem, a Senegalese company called MuzikBi has launched Africa's first platform for music downloads. This platform aims to promote artists, pay them properly, and to fight piracy in the same way that Iroko TV in Nigeria did for movies. Music can easily be downloaded by text or PayPal and costs between 50 and 85 US cents.
Now we know where we can get our African music. A lot of us are guilty of downloading music illegally. Next time when you do that, think of the artist who labored hard to make you your favorite song. Let's support them by buying the music legally.
This platform has just been launched, so it may take a while before you find your favorite artist there. But do have a look at MuzikBi for yourselves and know that every time you buy music there, you're doing something good for the African music industry.
I think it's also a great way to discover music from other countries. Say, Ivory,
Yeah.
do you download African music illegally?
I can neither deny nor confirm that. What I can say is that if I hypothetically did that, I won't be doing that anymore.
Right. Well, if I did it, I won't do it anymore either. That's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Please comment on today's topics below.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and share this video.
We'd love to hear from you how to greet in your language as well. And of course, we'd love to see you again next week. And remember, if the power goes, load shedding.